Hello, my name's Ellie Fowler and today I will be presenting a consultancy report for Avondale's College of Higher Education in regards to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander policies and support systems. So to give you a bit of background, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people equate to about 2.4% of the Australian population. Now in recent years there's been an increased effort to assist in closing the gap in education between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians. So in particular this policy looks at Avondale's College current policy and support systems and then recommendations for improvement as well. So to complete this report, literature was consulted from a wide variety of sources including government publications, policies, best practice guidelines and having a look at what other universities within New South Wales are doing as well. And from my research, the main areas for targeted interventions included reconciliation, enrolment and cultural competency. So to give you a bit of background about reconciliation, now there is a reconciliation action plan framework, and this provides organisations with strategies to become drivers of reconciliation both internally and within the community. So this was developed by Reconciliation Australia, and they recommend different structural approaches depending on where you feel that your reconciliation is targeted towards. So these include reflect, innovate, stretch and elevate. Now for Avondale, when currently looking at their support policy, their Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander support policy, they have a scope and guiding principle that states a commitment to principles of unity, respect, trust and equity to improve the 5 dimensions of reconciliation as outlined by Reconciliation Australia. So as it would be recommended then that Avondale implement a reconciliation statement and a reconciliation action plan using one of those strategies or structural approaches outlined by Reconciliation Australia. For enrolment, now currently it's estimated that Indigenous Australians comprise about 1.6% of domestic student enrolment, and recently the National Strategy by Universities Australia has encouraged universities to try and grow the number of Indigenous students enrolled by 50% of those of non-Indigenous students. For recommendations to Avondale, again in their policy they have an objective that states improve the ATSE undergraduate progression, success and completion rates. So for Avondale I would encourage them to try and increase their enrolment rates, and in particular being involved within Indigenous communities locally. So for example in going to primary or secondary schools and fostering a relationship with the students there, getting them familiar with Avondale College and providing them insight with the Indigenous support that the college provides. And lastly is cultural competency. So this encompasses the knowledge, understanding, awareness and sensitivity to other cultures with the ability to appropriately interact with those cultures. Now, the National Best Practice Framework encourages universities to become engaged with Indigenous communities, and they suggest incorporating cultural competency as part of a curricula throughout all university degrees. So for Avondale, again in their ATSE policy, they have a guiding principle that states systemic, organisational, professional and individual cultural competency. So I would suggest that they try and ensure cultural awareness by inclusion of cultural competency throughout all curricular content. And then similarly to as seen by Newcastle University, Avondale could create an Indigenous committee that is involved in the governance of the university as well as the social support and services within the university as well. This will allow Avondale to create a whole of university approach and to facilitate engagement with local Indigenous communities to provide a more inclusive environment. So thank you for listening. Here are some references from my report. Thank you.